to house more kids who have been separated from their parents. And even the Republican congressman who represents this district calls that idea just nuts.
Yes, people are going about their business, but it is tense here, and I'll set the scene for you. I'm right here at the very bottom of that bike path where this truck went through yesterday. You can see the bike path. That's the end of the bike path right there, and police have sealed it off, as you can tell right there. This whole area is sealed off, basically, and by the way, we're just near the One World Trade Center right there. We don't know if that played a significant role in this attack. Paulke, it is a wonderful celebration here in Chicago. I'm at the Adler Planetarium, and thousands of people have been gathering here to soak all this in. I think you can see behind me, there's the planetarium back there. The only, unfortunately, here in Chicago, the totality won't be complete.
The protests up to this point have been fairly organized. This one is not. It is, as you see, fairly chaotic. I'm going to talk to this gentleman here, Greg. Greg, come in. Quick question for you. Are these protests working?
Donald Trump hasn't even shown up yet, and already there have been several very noisy ejections out of this pavilion. We'll show you the first one right here. Happened about an hour ago.
And they're expecting upwards of 10,000 people, maybe more here to fill up this street. You see some of the construction work going on. And get this, the park doesn't even open for business till 2 p.m. for this event, but already we got fans lined up. Well, Shayna, a lot of people here in El Paso County are angrily asking the question, why here? There are about 400 teenage boys being held here, and many of them cross the border without their parents. But the government is thinking about adding an extra 4,000 beds here, presumably to house more kids who have been separated from their parents. And even the Republican congressman who represents this district calls that idea just nuts. This government border outpost in El Paso County is about as remote, hot, and dusty as it gets. And somewhere back there are hundreds of kids who have no idea how long they'll be kept. The adults have no idea either.
Part of what we're wondering is when these kids will be reunified with their families. How long will they be separated? What will happen to the families? Will the family member get sent back? What will happen to the students? So we don't have a lot of those questions answered yet.
Like I said, we've seen and we've heard that this separation will have long-standing impacts on these children. And I don't think that we as a community want to be a party to that.
The County Commission of El Paso approved a resolution this morning opposing the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy on illegal immigration that has led to the separation of families. But one commissioner voted no. You voted no on the resolution today. Why is that?
I've kept a pretty constant stance for the entire time I've been in office. It's nothing to do with the resolution itself. I don't feel, one, immigration is my role as a county commissioner.
In the last couple of months, roughly 2,000 kids have been separated from their parents at the border, which has created such a space crunch along the eastern border of Texas that kids are now being sent here to Tornillo in the west. Is the zero-tolerance policy here in the U.S. a deterrent to these people?
According to people that we spoke to in Central America, no.
Sammy DePasquale leads an immigrant advocacy group. They recently traveled to Central America to get a better idea of why all those immigrants are coming here.
Some of these kids, from a very young age, were being groomed to join the gangs, and then once they became 12, 13, 14 years old, high pressure. The girls were getting just pulled in.
To prostitution?
Yeah, a lot to prostitution or just to be available for gang members, sexual exploitation, and then the young men, oftentimes with a gun to their head or under threat of having someone from their family killed.
But DePasquale's advocacy group and no other local advocacy group can get in to see any of the kids here. That's because the government has contracted with this group, the nonprofit Bethany Christian Services, to go into the tents in continuous 12-hour shifts to work with the kids and help them find foster homes. But these workers have no idea how long this will go on either. At the hotel where they are staying, they are booked months ahead. You've seen those pictures of kids in cages. Well, by all accounts, that's not the case here. These kids, we're told, have access to medical facilities. There are bathrooms and showers and a chow hall. For every 20 kids, there are 2 adults supervising, and maybe best of all, there are 4-ton air conditioning units in each of the tents. Shayna?
With Bill
nation.
Arthur Jones is a longtime Nazi-supporting, Holocaust-denying anti-Semite, and he doesn't care what you think. Do you deny the Holocaust ever happened?
I just showed you all kinds of proof to prove to anybody with ability to think rationally that the Holocaust is what I said it was before. It's nothing more than an international extortion racket to bleed and blackmail, extort, and terrorize the enemies of the Jews into silence or subservience.
Jones is also the Republican nominee for Congress in this suburban Chicago district.
I'm not criticizing Jews as Jews. I'm criticizing the so-called Holocaust survivors who have been proven over and over again to be outright liars, and they're liars for profit.
Jones and I had to meet in a park because no one in town, not even his own landlord, wants him around talking openly about his beliefs. But the animosity against Jews in particular, I mean, that's terrifying.
Animosity from where?
From you.
It's not animosity. I'm just standing for the truth.
The Illinois Republican Party, which still clings to its standard bearer, Abraham Lincoln, disavows Jones, demands he drop out of the race, and calls him abhorrent. The feeling is mutual.
The Republican Party always put up some gutless wonder to drain votes away from me. Well, what they've set up here, it's what's called, I call it the two-party, Jew party, queer party system.
So how did this happen? Jones has run and lost numerous political races. 2 years ago, the Republican Party chased him away by invalidating many of his petition signatures in the race for this same seat. But this time, Republicans didn't even bother putting up their own candidate. And Jones quietly gathered enough valid signatures by walking door to door, presenting himself as a traditional social conservative, a veteran, and an opponent of foreign wars. He did not mention his beliefs.
You're on the record. You've said that you don't believe the Holocaust.
Forged records of Holocaust survivors are getting special Social Security benefit.
His beliefs did become big national news a few weeks before the March primary vote, and yet even then, running unopposed, he still managed to pick up almost 21,000 votes in the primary. That's a depressing thought for the regional director of the Anti-Defamation League, which has been tracking and pushing back against Jones for years. The ADL's leader says that while the group remains non-political, state Republicans might have some soul-searching to do.
As leadership, they need to make a decision in terms of where they want their party to go and what kind of messaging they want out there.
The state Republican Party declined an on-camera interview, but they have said they will put forth their own Republican write-in candidate for November. That's a face-saving move that will needlessly cost them, since no Republican was ever expected to win anyway in this heavily Democratic district. And if he loses, Jones promises you won't hear the last of him. He's writing a book. Andy Roschen, I-24 News, Chicago.
God provides, because look who showed up today. Amen. Thank you. You're welcome.
Jetty Walker thought her luck had run out when the state of Michigan abruptly ended its 2-year run of free bottled water distribution to Flint residents on April 6th. There was a run on whatever was left. Turns out, Jetty is getting some of the very last cases of that supply.
You don't know how much I appreciate this, because I really thought you guys were gone. Yeah. I do.
In the spring of 2014, city leaders in Flint worked with state officials to quietly switch Flint's water supply from the Detroit River to the Flint River, knowing that it was dirty and dangerous in a cost-saving measure. Sure enough, it caused lead to leach from residents' pipes and into their drinking water.
Come on. I was going to brush your teeth after you then.
Tiantha Williams' son, born 3 months premature around the time the crisis was exposed, tested positive for lead poisoning and now suffers the effects. At almost 2.5 years old, he still hasn't said the word mommy.
It's sad and it's scary and it pisses you off. It makes you mad.
The family has been going through 2 to 3 cases of state-donated bottled water a day for everything from cooking to teeth brushing. Outside Tiantha's home and thousands more, flags mark the spot where lead pipes will eventually be replaced. The lead pipes of about 6,200 homes have already been replaced, with roughly 36,000 homes yet to go. But Michigan's Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ, says that since Flint's water supply was switched back to the Detroit River in October of 2015, lead levels in the water supply have been going down to the point where all the water is now safe to drink, even in homes that have the old lead pipes. The trouble is, no one trusts the state government. That trust was obliterated years ago.
And my son is very sick. Heart transplant. They told me in Ann Arbor, do not let him drink the water.
I don't trust our government, and I never will again.
The Department of Environmental Quality declined an on-camera interview, but they tell us the bottled water distribution cost the state around $29 million, and that the state could have legally ended that program months earlier, and that the state will keep on providing free water filters, even though many residents don't trust those either. U.S. Congressman Dan Kildee, a Flint native, says residents were lied to from the beginning about the water crisis, and that all that testing doesn't account for the pain or guilt of a nursing mother like Tiantha for potentially poisoning her own child with tainted water.
As I've been saying all along, continue to provide bottled water until all the lead is gone.
As many as 10,000 Flint kids were at risk of lead poisoning, and during the height of the crisis, there were dozens of children testing positive for high lead levels every month. Today, that number is down to about 6 or 7 every month, which is on par with other cities of Flint size. Here at Flint's Greater Holy Temple Ministries, Sandra Jones leads her troops in the Battle of the Bottles. During the height of the water crisis, so many semi-trucks loaded with donated bottled water rumbled up to the church that they cratered the parking lot. Sandra has pleaded with the Department of Environmental Quality to keep the bottled water coming until all the lead pipes are replaced.
Please continue to service those persons, those households. But that wasn't even a consideration.
But somehow, some way, Sandra says, through corporate donations and charity partners, the church is determined to keep getting free bottled water to those who will never trust the state or their own pipes.
And like I said, thank you. God bless you. God bless you.
We'll see you next week.
All right, I'll be here for it.
And Andy Rosegen, who found that story, joins us now in studio. Andy, terrific report. The governor has told the residents of Flint, or at least told the leadership of Flint, just get over this?
Yeah, the mayor came out of a meeting with the governor last week, and she said that he said to her, get over it. You know, we have to move on. The state has said, look, it was the data that forced us to make this decision to give you the bottled water. So now it's the data that shows us the water is safe and to end the program.